So when I ask people what the one piece of equipment they miss the most from the commercial gym is, the overwhelming majority of them say a cable piece. What I've got behind me is quite possibly the most versatile of its kind, and that's the Prime Fitness Selectorized Single Stack. More on that coming up. Hey, what's up guys? Hope you're doing well. I'm glad you're here because today is yet another perfect day to talk about gym equipment. Hey guys, my name is Adam with Garage Gym Lab, and if you're new here, this channel is all about testing and reviewing gym equipment, building the home gym community, and providing inspiration to anybody out there who's looking to build their dream gym. So if that's something you're interested in, I definitely encourage you to subscribe. That way you can stay up to date on all the weekly content. So cable pieces, one of the most versatile pieces of equipment you can have in a gym. They open up a ton of training options. They're really fun to use, but sometimes they can be pretty bulky, and let's face it, they're typically not the cheapest pieces of equipment. And I think that may be why we don't see them more often in a home gym environment. But with that said, it feels like recently, maybe over the last year or so, companies are kind of starting to listen to us a little bit. We've seen a big influx of cable pieces on the market. Some are more affordable than others. Some are higher quality than others. Some are more versatile than others. But nonetheless, we have better access to them, especially in the home gym environment. Now, the unit behind me, the Prime Fitness Selectorized Single Stack, in my opinion, stands above all the rest. It's one of the most versatile pieces you can have. Yeah, it's pretty expensive. It's a premium product to be sure. But today we're going to be going through everything about this unit, all the advantages, the shortcomings that I see with it, and the price. So at the end, if you've still got questions, feel free to drop a comment below and I'll be sure to answer. Now, when you look at the overall cable machine landscape, you've really got three main options. The first one you have is the functional trainer, which I'm sure all of us have used at some point in our lives. Very, very versatile machine, takes up a little bit more space than some of the others, and generally speaking, depending on which unit you buy, is more expensive. The second one you have is a lat pull down low row. Not as versatile as a functional trainer, although still very versatile in its own right. Takes up a little less space, is generally less expensive, and you can take advantage of a bigger weight stack. And then the third one, which is where this Prime piece fits in, is in the single column. Think half of a functional trainer. So you're saving some space, you're saving some money, and you're still maximizing utility. Now, what separates this Prime piece from some of the other single columns on the market, like the Rogue CT1 and the Sorinex functional column, is the fact that it actually incorporates some of the elements from that lat pull down by using a dedicated high pulley. This allows you to maximize the weight stack and still deliver insane amounts of versatility. So I'm gonna show you how that works and we'll get into it. So one of the things that makes this unit so versatile and so unique is the fact that it uses a 3x3 column. This is exactly like what you would find on the uprights of some of the high-end power racks from companies like Sorinex, Rogue Fitness, Rep Fitness, and even Prime Fitness in the case of their Prodigy line. Has 1-inch holes, spaced 2-inch on center. Again, exactly like what you would find on those power racks. Has laser cut numbers every other hole for a total of 36 hole options. Now, when you look at some of the other single column products in the market, this is a big benefit for a couple of reasons. The first is that those units don't include this many hole options. And the second is that their column is smaller and their holes are smaller, which basically limits you to just being able to adjust the pulley. Now, there's nothing inherently wrong with that. I mean, that's the whole point of this apparatus. But what Prime Fitness has done so smartly with these 1-inch holes is it's given us the functionality to be able to mount some pretty cool attachments directly onto the column. So things like lat pull down seat or a low row feet or a dip bar. Heck, I can even bring some of my Sorinex and Rep Fitness attachments and put them right on this column. Now I'm gonna come back to some of these attachments in a little bit because I wanna go through them in more detail because there's some pros and cons of each. But when you really take into consideration not only this column, but also the dedicated high pulley, that's when you truly realize the versatility of this piece because you're essentially consolidating two pieces of equipment into one, thereby saving you space, potentially saving you money, and still delivering a ton of versatility. All right, guys, let's talk about ratios for a second because they're a very important feature of this unit and they're an important distinction on cable pieces in general. Typically, when you're looking at a functional trainer or a single column, you're either going to have a 2-to-1 ratio or a 4-to-1 ratio. And on something like a lat pull down, you're typically going to have a 1-to-1 ratio. Now, all this is the relationship between the effective load, that is the load that I'm actually feeling when I'm lifting the weight, and what is actually stated on the stack. So in the case of a 2-to-1 ratio, if I select 100 pounds, I'm actually going to feel 50 pounds of resistance. In the case of a 4-to-1 ratio, I will feel 25 pounds of resistance, etc. On the prime piece, not only do you have the option to pick your ratio, either a 2-to-1 ratio or a 4-to-1 ratio, but you're also getting a resulting ratio of half on your dedicated high pulley. So take my unit, for example. I have a 2-to-1 ratio. Anything I lift on my adjustable column, I'm going to feel half of whatever is stated on my weight stack. Whereas if I'm doing a lat pull down using the high pulley, I'm actually going to get a true 1-to-1 ratio, which is so cool, guys. And this is really what goes back to what I was saying earlier, where we're consolidating essentially two pieces of equipment into one. Because if you tried to replicate a lat pull down on a functional trainer or another single column using, say, a bench, you're only going to get a 2-to-1 ratio in the best case. This is a huge benefit for the prime piece. You're able to take full advantage of your max weight stack. Now again, you can pick a 4-to-1 ratio. If you do that, you get a 2-to-1 ratio on the high pulley. I recommend the 2-to-1 ratio on the adjustable column because we all about those gains, baby. Since we're talking about ratios, guys, let's go ahead and move to the weight stack. But before we do that, it's important to note that you can actually buy this unit as a selectorized unit, which is what I have, or as a plate loaded unit. Now the plate loaded unit is a little bit less expensive by a few $100s, and it includes a nice benefit over the selectorized unit, and that's that you can actually adjust the ratio on the fly using a simple pin. So you can go from a 2-to-1 or a 4-to-1 ratio on the column or a 1-to-1 ratio to a 2-to-1 ratio on the high pulley by simply pulling out a pin. You don't get that on the selectorized unit. You tell Prime what you want when you buy the unit, and that's what you get. Now the nice thing about the selectorized unit is you get a big boy stack. This thing goes all the way up to 350 pounds, which is more than any other unit that I've found on the market. If you look at the Rogue CT1, with that you get a 250 pound stack. If you look at the Sorinex functional column, you either get to pick from a 250 pound stack or a 300 pound stack. So right off the bat, you're getting more load capacity with the Prime unit above and beyond those units. Now, the downside to having this big of a stack is you have bigger plate jumps. These are 20-pound increments, whereas on the Rogue and the Sorinex, you only have 10-pound increments. So if you're looking to make micro adjustments, you have to get a little bit creative with the Prime unit. And you can accomplish that in one of three ways. The first is you have a top band peg here, as well as a bottom band peg. These come as standard on your unit, so you can get accommodating resistance that way. You can also buy a third optional band peg and put it over here, thereby creating an L and increasing the accommodating resistance that way. The second way, which is the way that I did it for a long time, is using the top band peg as a little plate sleeve. And here I've got 10 pounds. You can use any change plate you want, of course, but this is a good way to accomplish some micro adjustments. The third way, and the way that I do it now and the way that I recommend, is using this tool called the gem pin. If you have a selectorized unit, I highly recommend this product. It's absolutely fantastic. It basically replaces your selector, and it's got a literal barbell sleeve on the end. So now I can put plates directly onto my stack and either make micro adjustments or go and be above and beyond the max weight of my stack, in this case, 350 pounds. Super cool tool. Gem pen, I'll put a link in the description down below. Now when it comes to the actual size of this unit, guys, there are a few things to keep in mind. Yes, it's gonna take up some space as you would expect, but when you consider everything that you're getting with this unit, it's surprisingly not more than you might think. You're gonna need to allocate a little bit more than a 5x5 portion of your space, but one of the things that Prime did, as I'm sure you've already noticed, is they created this machine to be shaped like a V. And they did that for a reason, and that's so you could easily put this into a corner if you wanted to. Now, obviously you don't have to, I didn't, clearly, but that's largely because my garage isn't really accommodating for that. If you do have the space for it, it fits perfectly in a corner. Now, when you have these 45-degree feet coming out, it does create a little bit of dead space there. So one of the things that Prime did was actually put 1-inch holes on the top of those feet to create some functionality here, and that's so you could easily store your attachments. They also have some leveling features on these feet. If you're in a garage gym like I am, you got some slope issues, maybe you have your equipment set up on the side where your garage is sloping down and out, then this is perfect for that. It ensures that you get a perfectly level machine and it's super easy to use. One of the things that I think a lot of people are gonna find appealing about this unit is the fact that it's relatively short compared to some of the other products on the market. This one stands at only 92 inches. So if you're in an 8-foot or taller ceiling environment, which most of us are in homes, then just know that it's probably gonna fit really well in your space. It may also fit under your garage rail. So if you're in a garage gym, that's a spot possibility as well. Now, taking a look at that Rogue CT1 again, that unit is almost 1.5 feet taller, standing at close to 109 inches. But when you look at the top hole on the single column of that unit, and then the actual top of the unit itself, that's a lot of dead space right there. Conversely, the Prime unit, with the dedicated high pulley being the top of the actual unit, you're maximizing and utilizing every inch of the unit. Now, one of the drawbacks, of course, to having a shorter unit is if you're a taller person, unlike me, you might actually not be able to get a full stretch on the lat pull, depending on where you have your seat set up and which attachments you're using. By the way, I know you guys are probably wondering a little bit more about these Prime attachments. I'll have a full review of them separately. But just know if you are a taller person, using a lower profile attachment, take for example the 4-in-1 from Prime Fitness, is going to allow you to get a better range of motion. On the other hand, if you have something like the short bar with the rotate handles attached, this is really gonna limit your range of motion just due to the sheer amount of hardware on that attachment. Now, the attachments that I do wanna come back to are the ones that are specifically made for this unit. The one that I personally use the most is the lat pull-down seat. It's easy to set up, the vinyl is high quality, the padding is comfortable, the leg rollers raise up and down, some really nice features, no doubt. But one of the things you may have noticed in maybe some earlier clips is the fact that this piece has a tendency to rock back and forth when you're using it. It's not a ton, but I can feel it on every rep and it's kind of annoying. What I think is causing this is Prime didn't use a 1-inch pin in the back of the attachment. Whereas if you look on something like the trolley, they are using a 1-inch pin and it feels much more secure. So I'm thinking if they bring that 1-inch pin to the back of this attachment, it's gonna eliminate some, if not all of that slack and remove this rocking altogether. The other attachment that I use pretty frequently is the low row foot attachment. Now, unlike the lat pull-down seat, this one is super secure. It uses 2 1-inch pins on the front of the upright and then a set screw to ensure that it's properly and securely fastened. The other interesting thing about this attachment is it's actually got 2 independent platforms for your feet, and you can do some pretty cool things with that, like standing weighted calf raises and some other cool stuff. So definitely a nice attachment. I would definitely recommend picking that one up if you get this unit. The last attachment that I have here, guys, is the dip bar attachment. Functionally, this thing works just fine, but it's not an attachment that I use very much in my training. Part of that is because I have a dedicated dip setup on my rack using urethane pins and my safeties, but the bigger part is because this is a side-mounted attachment. Where I think Prime has an opportunity here is to turn this into a front-facing attachment. I know I would use it a lot more in that way because you can do weighted dips right off the stack. Now, in order to do that, they're gonna have to redesign this bracket a little bit, but I think the bigger topic of discussion is adding some more versatility to this column through the use of side holes. Now, obviously I had great things to say about this column earlier, but I think if you created a 4-way hole design here, you're gonna open up that much more versatility, really take this thing to the next level beyond just a dip bar attachment. And on to the question I'm sure all of you are wondering by now, and what I alluded to earlier in the video, and that is, what is the cost of this bad boy? I'm going to Prime Fitness's website, I can't see the price, I feel your pain. I think Prime Fitness is working on that, so stay tuned. But in the meantime, I'll let you guys know, the Selectorized version is $2,800. It does not include attachments and it does not include shipping. If you want to save a few $100s, you can go the plate loaded route. That's $2,500, I believe. But at the end of the day, guys, this is a premium offering. This is a commercial grade, high quality piece of equipment that adds a ton of versatility to your training. So you just have to ask, is that worth it to you? Or do I go maybe a less expensive route, still get a great cable piece, but maybe give up some of that versatility? I'm curious, what are your thoughts? Let me know in the comments section below. But guys, this is the Prime Fitness Selectorized Single Stack, one of my favorite pieces of equipment in the gym. Thank you guys so much for tuning in today. I really appreciate it. Look forward to seeing you on future videos. Until then, be well and we'll chat soon.